Welcome again to Deep Dive on your channel, Book Echoes.
It's great to be back. And this source is a heavy hitter. It's part history, part philosophy, all wrapped up in one.
It really is. Today, we are diving into a memoir that's just incredibly intense and structurally fascinating. It's Rubin Carter's 2011 work, Eye of the Hurricane: My Path from Darkness to Freedom.
That's the one.
And our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding this incredible journey. We're not just, summarizing his fight for release.
No, not at all.
We're trying to extract the key insights into the structure of his spiritual transformation, the path he carved from this inner darkness to real freedom, and of course his decades-long battle against judicial error.
And that's such a crucial distinction to make right up front. I mean, Carter, who lived from 1937 to 2014, is famous for the wrongful conviction that put him away for almost 20 years. But this book, which he wrote with Ken Klonsky, it's not so much about the legal nitty-gritty.
Right.
It's more about the internal revolution he went through during that time. It's this detailed chronicle of a spiritual journey that really prepared him for the second half of his life.
His advocacy work.
Exactly. His advocacy on behalf of other wrongly convicted people.
And when you look at the topics the book covers, prisoners in the U.S., judicial error, the whole administration of criminal justice, it's clear we're at this intersection of a deeply personal story and a massive, massive systemic critique. Carter sort of uses his own life as a teaching tool here.
He absolutely does. He synthesizes decades of pain and pulls it all together into this cohesive narrative. It's almost a guide for intellectual and ethical survival. The title itself, From Darkness to Freedom, it promises that journey. But the real power of the book is in how methodically he defines the darkness first.
Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and activate the notification bell to receive all new content. Your support encourages us to continue.
Okay, so let's look at that architecture, because the structure of Eye of the Hurricane is not chronological, not in the way you'd expect a standard memoir anyway. It's thematic. It starts by setting the scene, establishing that initial state, the darkness, from the title. Where does he even begin with that?
Well, and this is what's so unsettling. He locates it internally. The introduction itself is titled Introduction: A Prisoner of Ignorance Living in Darkness.
Wow.
Right? It just sets the tone immediately. He's basically saying, look, I was in prison long before the state ever locked me up. The physical cell just brought a pre-existing state of spiritual or intellectual ignorance to the surface.
That's such a powerful way to frame it. It suggests that freedom isn't about the verdict being overturned. Freedom is realizing you have the power to think for yourself. Does he suggest you have to defeat that internal prisoner of ignorance first? Or do the battles happen at the same time? He argues they're sequential. The internal victory has to come first. His point is, if you haven't broken those internal chains, you just carry the darkness with you, even after you're physically released.
So it forces you, the reader, to look at your own mental barriers.
Exactly. He treats ignorance not as, a lack of facts, but as a failure to question things.
And the book then uses his early life to show how this whole framework of confinement was built, layer by layer, long before the famous murder trial even happened. It's almost like a biography of different prisons.
It is. His first institutional experience is in the chapter, Boys' Prison, Light to Where the Sun Don't Shine. So that anchors the whole story, showing that the system was failing him from the time he was a kid. It was defining him long before he became Hurricane Carter, the boxer.
And right after that institutional prison, he talks about a more subtle one, which he calls the prison of family, what my father didn't tell me. I mean, that speaks volumes about inherited trauma, doesn't it?
It points to a kind of generational darkness, yeah. He's exploring the limits that society puts on you and the things left unsaid even within your own family. Right. He's showing us the darkness came from his whole environment, not just his own choices.
So if you're reading this, you start to see that his whole experience is structured as a series of breaks he has to make.
Yes. First from ignorance, then from institutions, and finally from these inherited emotional limits.
So the big takeaway from that first section is you can be walking around free, but still be completely trapped. Trapped by your past, your family, your own mind. That sets the stage perfectly for the core transformation.
Right.
Which brings us to section 2. The journey to the center of the storm, the eye of the hurricane.
And this is, for me, the most fascinating part of the whole memoir. He had to stop identifying with the labels the world gave him, boxer, murderer, whatever, and find a completely new sense of self.
So how did he do that? He explains it in the chapter, Image and Identification, 2 ways we keep ourselves asleep. Let's unpack that a bit. What exactly is this philosophy, this work he talks about, that let him shed those identities?
The work is. It's a combination of intellectual discipline and just radical self-honesty. He saw that most people, in prison and out, live by images that are, borrowed or forced on them.
Like the tough guy or the victim.
Exactly, or the innocent. Carter says that clinging to any rigid image like that keeps you asleep emotionally and intellectually. His whole transformation was about actively rejecting those labels and just identifying with his own consciousness.
That is a huge mental shift to make, especially when you're facing a life sentence. It means you have to choose to see the prison cell not as punishment, but as a kind of a forced severe retreat for internal work.
Precisely. And you see that shift in the chapter Surviving Prison, Awakening to Myself. The word surviving changes its meaning there. It's not just about getting through the day, it's surviving the mental traps. And that's where the spiritual journey just kicks into high gear, because he realizes the one thing the state could never, ever imprison was his mind.
I think we should pause on the title metaphor for a second. Being in the eye of a hurricane, it means finding this patch of total, almost terrifying stillness while chaos is just raging all around you. How does the book connect the prison to that stillness?
Through another great metaphor in the chapter, the hole in the wall, finding the higher path. The hole in the wall isn't a literal escape route. It's a gap in his own mental defenses, or maybe a flaw in the system's ability to control him completely.
I see.
By getting to that stillness of the eye, he could see all the legal and social chaos around him with perfect clarity, but without letting the emotional storm destroy him. He found a higher path by realizing that the most restrictive place on earth can, paradoxically, lead to the greatest internal freedom.
Yeah.
It forces you inward.
So he essentially weaponized the prison system's attempt to break him. He used the solitude they forced on him to do the intellectual work he needed to transcend it all. The 20 years of confinement became his spiritual boot camp.
Yes, and that journey is what led to his physical release. But more importantly, it produced the conscious person who was then ready to actually advocate for others. He didn't just walk out of prison. He walked out with a self-designed PhD in truth and injustice.
So once he has that foundation, once he's done the work, that energy has to go somewhere, right? It has to be externalized. Which brings us to section 3, the second half of the book, taking that transformation and applying it to the real world.
It's the application phase of his philosophy, really. How do you take the clarity you gained in total isolation and use it in the messy, slow, complicated world of legal advocacy?
He uses another really powerful analogy for this shift in the chapter, taking the work out into the world, turning water into wine, which suggests that the everyday stuff of survival, the water, gets transformed into something valuable, the wine of justice. It's a kind of purposeful alchemy.
And that transformation comes with this huge sense of responsibility. Once you see the truth, you're obligated to act on it. His mission is outlined in the chapter, the rewards and responsibilities of a conscious life. The way of a one-eyed man.
Okay, let's unpack that phrase, the way of a one-eyed man. It's very memorable. We said it suggests clarity, but what kind of clarity? Why one eye, not two?
It's a really deep metaphor about truth versus illusion. In a world defined by judicial error, a system full of ambiguous facts, conflicting stories, political games, two eyes often just see confusion and duality. The one-eyed man, in Carter's view, has achieved a singular focus.
Unclouded by ego or politics.
Right. He sees the essential truth, the core of the injustice, and he acts on that alone. It's the kind of vision you need to cut through all the noise when you're fighting the system.
That must have been an intense way to live. But this advocacy work, it wasn't a smooth road for him, even after he got out. The memoir gets into some of the internal conflicts, which I find incredibly brave.
Well, it raises a really important question for anyone involved in social change. What happens when your personal commitment to truth clashes with the needs of an organization? And the book doesn't shy away from that at all.
Which brings us to the chapter, Why I Left the Association in Defense of the Wrongly Convicted, Acting Upon the Truth. This might be one of the most compelling parts of the book, ethically speaking.
It really shows that his internal discipline held him accountable, not just to the system's lies, but also to the truth within the organizations fighting the system. He was willing to walk away from powerful, well-meaning groups if he felt they were compromising that focused vision. The way of the one-eyed man.
You mean by getting bogged down in politics or bureaucracy?
Exactly. Anything that moved away from the core goal of freeing innocent people.
And that gives you, the listener, this critical insight into the messy reality of trying to fix a broken system. Even achieving that kind of consciousness doesn't mean conflict goes away. It just clarifies where you have to draw your own line in the sand. His commitment wasn't to an organization, it was to the principle.
That's the real legacy of his work. The external battles are what's documented, but the internal principles that guided them, that's the real blueprint in this memoir.
So this incredible deep dive has really followed Carter's arc, from living in darkness through all these layers of prisons to achieving a conscious life in the eye of the storm, and finally dedicating that life to fighting judicial error. It is a complete story of liberation.
And the final chapter title just perfectly sums up this whole duality of freedom. Just enough, home free.
Just enough. What do you think that means in this context? It feels like the total opposite of the ambitious, aggressive boxer he used to be.
I think it suggests contentment, sufficiency. After decades of this relentless struggle against the state, against himself, he reached a point of inner peace where the outside world just couldn't touch him anymore. Home free isn't a place, it's a state of being.
So freedom, for him, was something he achieved way back in the 70s and 80s.
Long before the courts finally let him go in 1985. He had just enough clarity, just enough peace to realize he was already home.
That really encourages you to reflect on what freedom means in your own life. Is it the absence of physical walls, or is it that internal state that lets you transcend them? The memoir is just a powerful, necessary case study of judicial error, all seen through the most radical lens you can imagine. Complete personal transformation.
It's a challenging read, for sure, but so deeply rewarding.
Thank you for guiding us through the profound layers of this memoir. It gives us so much to think about regarding inner work and external justice.
My pleasure. It was a great discussion.
We will meet again in another episode with another book. Take care and see you next time.